Easy come, easy go. That's just how you live. Oh, take it, tell, but you never give. Should have known we were trouble from the first kiss. Had your eyes wide open. Why were they open? Gave you all you had and you tossed it in your trash. You tossed it in the trash, you did. Please.
Welcome to the introduction to this episode.
The intro, welcome!
The Matt Graham episode.
Yes. Such a good episode.
Matt Graham is a survivalist. He's a desert survival expert.
Yeah.
That's like his specialty.
A survivalist.
Yeah. He lives off grid.
Bushcraft skills.
He's been on a whole gang of popular survival TV shows like Dual Survival.
Dude, You're Screwed.
That's a good one.
Live Free or Die.
I think he was on... Was he on Naked and Afraid at one point? I can't remember. But he's got... and then Bushcraft Build Off
Challenge.
That's the new one.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been on a lot of shows, got a lot of experience, and a really cool guy. Really genuine, down-to-earth kind of guy. All these survival guys we have on, and girls, that we have on are some of the coolest people we get to meet.
Yeah, just salt of the earth, real awesome.
Every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Super easy to talk to. Don't seem to have a bad bone in their body.
Yeah, and the new show that he just got done filming in Mongolia is called First Man Out.
Okay.
That's going to air in December on Discovery Channel International, so make sure to check that out too.
Dude's busy. The little song we're jamming to right now is from our favorite musician, Culla. It's called Microphone City.
Culla!
Make sure you go check out his music. He's on like iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. Culla. Cullah. He's got like 13 albums out there or something.
Yeah,
so
he's awesome.
A lot of good stuff. Alright, let's get into this episode, huh?
Let's do it.
Alright, here we go with Matt Graham.
Wait, I recall I rattled him twice, and each time he's tried to grab my dice. If left to my own devices, I would decisively entice. I'm hotter than Posh Spice.
Now, tonight's adventure into the unknown.
Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome!
Francie,
Hey,
who we got tonight?
we have a guest tonight who is a teacher of primitive skills. He also is in TV shows.
Wow.
I know, right?
You totally flipped the script on that description. You're like, I'm going to ad-lib the heck out of this.
Yep. Anyways, we have a fantastic, exciting guest that I am super pumped about, Matt Graham. How's it going, Matt?
I'm great. Thank you for that.
Did you like that?
Oh, brilliant. How are you guys?
Super good.
Awesome.
You are somebody that we are pretty familiar with the survival shows that we watch, because we're big fans of this whole boom that's happened in the last, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years or so, where maybe even longer than that, at least maybe the last decade. But these TV shows that have come out that are about survival and you know, there's a ton of them.
There's so many.
Yeah. But it's definitely something that's become way more popular. I don't know why necessarily, but people have latched onto it, and we're one of them.
I can tell you why I do. After he talks.
Yeah.
No, you talk first.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where as we advance further and further into technologies, I think people are, they're hungry to see the other side and see what we're leaving behind, and there's still so much wild landscape on this planet that we're drawn to that. We want to connect with it. We don't want to connect just with our cities, but I think there's a yearning to to understand the natural world and the artistry that's out there. And when you bring that back and you merge it with culture, sometimes you have really beautiful magic happen.
Yeah, especially with, like, when you say with the way technology's advanced lately, that I agree with you on that, because, you know, like with the internet, people being able to be connected much more efficiently, a much faster way than, you know, you may never meet somebody necessarily in person, but you can connect with somebody like across the globe. But with that, people have been able to like gather so much more information than they ever have been able to before. Like before, you had to go to the library if you wanted to find something out that you didn't know anything about, or ask somebody who knows about that subject. Now you
probably didn't even know the whole facts.
Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know how much knowledge this guy has. You ask somebody a question like, "Hey, can you tell me what's the best way to make a fire in the woods?" Oh, yeah. You know, he could give you some total BS response. And you have no way of fact checking. But so people have access to this knowledge now. And it seems like it's almost like cyclical. Like people there's like a nostalgia in it a little bit. There's something romantic about, you know, living off the land or knowing these survival skills, being able to take care of yourself out in the woods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I think it connects people closer to their immediate surroundings and their communities, you know, because like you said, you know, we have this access to the other side of the world, and we're expanding our circles, but our immediate circles sometimes get a little bit neglected. And I think primitive skills, earth skills, is a way to address your immediate place and your surroundings sometimes.
Well, and I think it has to do also with just being outside, and like there's people that really love that, and then there's people that are like, no way, I hate camping, even if they have a tent and a chandelier and a fan and like all the things in it.
It's really
like,
hard.
There's just people that don't appreciate the outdoors, I guess.
It's really difficult for me to, like, I lose a little bit of respect for somebody when I hear them say things like that. Like, the kind of people who are like, ew, camping, gross.
Yeah, like the whole term glamping. Like, no, you just don't even go. Like, why?
I agree with that too, but people that refuse to even go glamping, you know, in basically an RV trailer park, you know, that kind of camping where it's just a bunch of, you got a campsite literally right up next to you. And,
I guarantee none of those people.
I'm big and famous. I only camp in my yard.
What's that?
I'm just only messing with you.
No, you were cutting out. We didn't hear you. What'd you say?
No, I was just making a joke that I only RV camp anymore now that I'm famous and rich from TV money.
Duh.
Yeah. Well, you've been on a bunch of shows.
Yeah, you have.
These survival shows, like the one we've been watching lately on
Dude,
Amazon.
You're Screwed.
Dude, You're Screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like that.
That show is great. I've watched like pretty much every season or every episode from season 3.
2.
Sorry, 2. And that was the African Sahara for you.
Yeah, what's that?
Oh, yeah. Africa's spectacular, beautiful country, amazing people. The Maasai are just those people that you just immediately connect and feel a presence with. That was I think it was a fun show. I believe we had a really good cast on that show, and we all had these little different quirks and backgrounds, but it worked. It complemented each other, and it not only did it have some education in there, but it definitely had a lot of entertainment factor to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally had an education, which I liked about it probably the most. It taught you about like hypothermia and the temperature, that when your body reaches that, like you're in danger, and I don't know, just kind of taught you stuff.
Yeah. There's so many survival shows out there, and a lot of them have their different quirks and you know, changes. They can't all be like Survivor Man, where a guy goes out there for 2 weeks all by himself, films it himself, and you know, straight up lives off the land just to see if he can do it and try and teach you some things along the way. If every survival show was like that, you know, it wouldn't work. So, you know, some of them have added these, you know, added entertainment value to it, like Dude, You're Screwed. That show was mostly entertaining. You know what I mean? It had things that you would learn from it, survival wise, but for the most part, it was just an entertaining show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing too that I think a lot of people don't realize about TV, because I've been a hunter-gatherer for a long time. Long before I did TV, I spent more than half my year actually living off the land, and then the other part of that, I was a teacher, so sharing those skills and connecting with community that way. But when I was hunting and gathering, I found that like literally every minute of the day was precious. And when you're filming something and you're doing it on TV, you're only getting back a fraction of the day, maybe about a quarter of it. The rest of the day is spent doing dialogue, doing retakes, getting shots, getting different angles. There's a lot that goes into putting together something that still tells a story rather than just strapping a GoPro to your head and walking around.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to add a certain amount of entertainment for that. There is some authenticity that you lose because you just can't capture it all. Like it would just be overwhelming for a cameraman to actually just literally follow you and capture everything as is.
Yeah. Well, I used to be in that camp of people who would talk smack about the survival shows, like the Man vs. Wild, when you found out he's sleeping in hotels and he's not really, a lot of the stuff is staged and whatnot. I was initially in that camp where it was like, that's bull. I can't believe that. I can't believe it's fake. That's crap. I'll never watch that show again. Like that's, I felt like I was personally
violated.
Yeah, like did something. It was. But when I thought about it, I realized that it's a lot of it is staged. It's set up scenarios, but that's okay. It doesn't mean it's a crap show and that you shouldn't watch it or that you're not going to learn anything from it. So a lot of this, some of this stuff can be a little sensational. Especially on the Bear Grylls show, a lot of times they did some crazy things that normal people just would never do, even in a survival situation. They're not rappelling down the sides of mountains and stuff. They're not British special forces like he was, but there's still...
every show's it's got a different format. If somebody's not good with the show, they shouldn't watch it. But I think Bear Grylls, it's basically survival adventure TV. And it's got its place. Bear's a great presenter, and sure, there's you'd be foolish to follow the advice about everything there, but there's always within that, there's always little tips here and there that are genuine and you can learn something.
Yeah.
But everyone's different. I get pitched really silly stuff sometimes. It's highly produced, but I generally don't do it. I don't fake skills. I don't fake fires. I don't, put animals in traps. For the detriment of my being, I really try to keep some authenticity, even in a program that might not always have that.
Yeah. What's the craziest pitch that you've got for a show that you turned down?
The craziest what?
The craziest pitch, like the craziest scenario for a show.
I've had so many crazy pitches. I was actually asked to produce a show that Discovery was going to pick up called Caveman Sex.
Caveman Sex. Nice.
Yeah. And I Discovery didn't greenlight it, but it was a production company came to me and they wanted me to help produce the show. That basically was to pick up in the visuals where the audience they believed was visualizing where Naked and Afraid was leaving off. So,
it was visualizing what?
Like they were imagining that people were thinking that more happened at nighttime on Naked and Afraid than was being alluded to.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they were coming up with a show that sort of capitalized on that, but I turned it down.
That's so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, quite bad. But no, I get pitched quite a few projects every year, and I'm pretty particular at this stage in my career about what I take and do.
Yeah, that's good. So where did you grow up? What were you like as a kid? Where were you living? You nomad.
Yeah, I've always been a little wild child as a kid, but I actually grew up in Southern California. We had a place that was pretty close to the ocean, and we also had a place up in the mountains. So even though I grew up in this very totally lucky. I mean, it was a very, busy, moving, citified place, but I also was, my parents basically spent a lot of time with me more in the natural aspects of that region. So I got to actually learn quite a bit and connect quite a bit with the land growing up.
You've kind of got that California accent.
Yeah, you do.
I know. I can't shake it. Everyone thinks I'm this heavy stoner, but I don't smoke hardly at all.
Well, that's awesome. Hardly at all.
Hardly at all. Yeah.
So, were your parents outdoorsy? Like your parents obviously enjoyed the outdoors if they had a cabin plus.
Yeah, my dad definitely. He was really into Yule Gibbon, so he was teaching me about edible plants when I was younger.
Oh, cool.
And he loved hunting. He took me hunting. He wasn't a good hunter, but at least we got outside. And,
he wasn't very good.
No, he wasn't. He was terrible.
What did you hunt?
He taught me what not to do.
Mostly birds, the quail and pheasant, things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, he had a friend that we'd hunt with, and we'd go into areas where there's just loaded with quail, and his friend would come back with 10 quail, and my dad would get like half a quail.
That's awesome. At least, he still loved it, so that's good.
Yeah, no,
it's kind of like this podcast. We love it. We're just not that
good. Yeah, I think those times definitely planted a spark for sure. The cabin, and then my mom was a beach girl, so she took me to the ocean a lot. So I was literally in the water, just all the time in the summer and the weekends.
Were you a surfer? Did you surf?
Yeah, I did. I honestly, I kind of sucked at surfing, but I was such a good swimmer, and we were able to fit a boogie board in the car, so I was like a great boogie boarder, but I didn't learn to surf until actually later in my life, where I was able to transport a board to the ocean.
Yeah, that makes a difference. When your mom's an ocean lover, when's her birthday? I don't want to be creepy. I'm going to guess something.
It's September 16th.
Okay. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, were you thinking of Summer Girl or something?
I was thinking of a water sign.
Oh, yeah.
Frenzy likes the astrological signs.
I kind of, sometimes I'm good at it. This time, not so much.
My birthday is coming up in a few days here.
When's your birthday?
The 24th of this month.
I don't.
Sunday.
I never got the whole love of surfing that a lot of people have.
Are you kidding me? It's so amazing. If I wasn't so drawn to wild places, I would definitely live right on a great break somewhere.
What's so great about it? I know when people who like to surf, when they talk about it, they're like, it's the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
I want to go surfing every single day. I've just never done it, so I have no.
Well, I used to climb. I used to rock climb about for 3 years in Yosemite without a rope. I did a lot of free soloing. Free soloing and surfing are the only two things I can honestly say. Well, and hunting, where my mind just gets completely empty and relaxed.
So
instead of adrenaline, your brain gets relaxed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because it's those things are just purely meditative, and you're just completely focused. You're completely present in the moment. So if you're having a funky day, all that just goes away. It's pretty magical.
So it's not an adrenaline thing. That why you love it?
No, not at all. I mean, there's climbing definitely is not an adrenaline thing. If you're feeling adrenaline, it's not you're in a bad spot.
I've rock climbed so many times,
never.
And I would be super nervous before I started, but then once you're doing it and you finish, you kind of have this almost like a runner, what I would anticipate or expect a runner's high would be like, but I've never experienced that because I don't run, but kind of that thing. And then you just look out and enjoy the view. But there were times where I was shitting my pants while I was doing it too.
Well, I guess I should clarify that. When you're climbing with a rope, you're physically pushing yourself. And sometimes adrenaline does come into play, but like when you there are some people that climb without ropes, and when you're doing that, you shouldn't be feeling adrenaline. You should be in control. You should be focused. You should be relaxed. You should be climbing a couple of grades down below that you're capable. Yeah, should is the optimal word for sure, but no free solo should advocate another person to do it. You know, it's a very personal choice to climb that way.
Right.
It amazes me that there are people out there who have no fear of heights, because you can't do that if you have a fear of heights. There's no way.
Oh, I was definitely afraid of heights when I first started climbing. But, you know, I just spent so much time on the rock every day, hours every day, that eventually it became my sidewalk, and I just became comfortable on it. But, yeah, I was extremely afraid of heights starting out.
That's another thing that I never could understand, how there's people who are basically addicted to climbing mountains, climbing giant rocks. I want to get to the top of that giant rock over there, and I have to do it.
It's a personal, like, passion, and like, you get to have that victory.
Well, they have like a legitimate pull. Like
like they're pulled towards it for sure.
That's weird. I've never had that.
So back to my back to my Zodiac thing. Your mom wasn't a beach chick, but you're a Cancer, right?
Yeah.
And I am too, and I'm a total beach person, and that's why the water sign was like, I was like, someone's got to be a water sign, and it's you.
It's good. Yeah, that was a good call right there for sure.
All right. Okay. Yeah. That's all. That's all.
No, I was actually I went swimming in the river twice today. Yeah. No, I love the water. Anytime it's present, I'm usually in.
Mm-hmm.
So where is it that you're talking to us from right now?
I'm on my land, which is I'm basically off grid in southern Utah, and then there's not too far from me is those national parks. So I'm kind of sandwiched in between Moab and Zion Canyon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you are you in the desert? I don't know where. Yeah,
you would call it a desert, but it's actually quite lush around here. Like, you just drop into a canyon and it's super green, and you know, there's springs and there's creeks and rivers, and it's pretty.
Because that's kind of one of your specialties, isn't it? Is desert survival skills?
I mean, that's what people seem to label me with, just because I spend a lot of time in this environment. But what people really think, what people don't understand, I think, about the environment that I live in, there's an 11,000 foot plateau right behind me. It's about half a day's walk, and so you have this 11,000 foot plateau, and then you have all these canyons running off of it, and then you have these big river valleys, and then south of me is more of the desert. So it's really a diverse ecosystem. Like, you basically get survival training, anything from alpine winter training all the way down to the desert, as well as the lush riparian zones.
That's cool.
See, that's how you know a dude spends a lot of time out in the wilderness, kind of living off the land, is when they refer to how far away something is a half a day's walk. Instead of like, it's a couple miles, it's going to take a few hours, half a day's walk.
Exactly.
It's funny. I'm actually, like, my mind's been, like, reframing that over and over this past week, because I basically committed a goal starting on the summer solstice, which is the 21st, which is tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm going to do 3 months of not spending any money and not using any vehicles, automobiles.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a cool challenge.
I know. I'm super, super stoked. I've been turning down lots of work, but, like, I'm doing this for me. It's a time to just hunt and gather more and work more with barter and trade and community, and just be more present for a bit. I'm going to try to document it a little bit, but a lot of it is just personal.
So
that's cool.
Just a personal challenge, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's a challenge as much as just needed. I actually did a 6-month wilderness solo about 10 years ago, and that was a challenge. I think this is going to be a pleasure. I'm doing it at more optimal times of year. You know, this is a great time to go into something like that. Fall is coming on. All the nuts and berries are going to be thick, and animals are going to be more active. storing up for the winter. So it'll be great time to be out.
Are you gonna stick around home or your land? Or are you gonna travel, or where are you gonna go?
Yeah, just wherever my feet take me. I probably won't do much more than 100-mile radius, but I'll be kind of in this sort of ecosystem that I was describing, from the high mountain to the canyons and desert.
Yeah, that's cool. So I have a great story. I think it's a great story. We live in a townhouse, and we have a little deck, but we've created basically a jungle of flowers and vegetables and stuff.
Oh, fun, yeah.
And today, the first green beans that were planted appeared. They're like little nuggets, but I got super pumped and took pictures of them. So there's that.
Yeah, that's cool. And are you eating those for salads and all that stuff?
Yeah, we're gonna grow them for salads. We've got a big, huge container of spinach that's half eaten already, and then we've got Brussels sprouts, broccoli, strawberries, some lavender, some other stuff. It's pretty cool. I just like that growing stuff. Oh, beets! Right. Yeah.
Oh, beets are it's so good. Yeah, I mean, anytime we get a chance to connect more with our food, I think it's a great thing.
I agree. I was having a conversation with my dad, he's a hunter fisherman, typical Minnesota guy, drinks beer, and he was just talking about he told me that the other night on Father's Day when I was over there, that one of his biggest regrets is how we've treated our environment and how much we've caused damage to it, and because we can't fix it. And he's not even any type of conservative or whatever. He doesn't really have any political affiliation, but you could tell that he was upset about it.
He's upset about how much he himself has damaged the wilderness.
No,
because he has done a lot of horrible things.
He has not.
Some atrocious things. He's burned down entire hundreds of thousands of acres of forest land. Just shoots animals indiscriminately.
Sunfish and crappers are basically extinct because he has such excellent fishing skills.
He fishes with dynamite.
Yeah, I'm glad he's over in Minnesota, not Utah.
Right? Oh, it's funny.
So this living off grid kind of thing right now.
100-mile radius.
So what's your setup for your home in California or Utah? What kind of setup do you have? A little...
Yeah, well, I kind of have two spots I bounce back and forth between. I've got up on kind of more of a mesa, I built it started out, honestly, it was just a little shade structure. And then where I lived, it was super windy, so I took about 180 square feet of the shade structure and I framed in a little, just tiny cabin style. I mean, there's no electricity or plumbing or anything in it. And then I catch rainwater off my roof, and I built a little yoga deck and an outdoor shower. It's super basic right now. I mean, someday I might build a little more, but it works. And then down on the river, I have another little hogan that I built, which is only about super small, 90 square feet, but it has a little fireplace built into it and stone walls, and it's pretty nice.
Cool.
So this is a little patch of land that you own then?
Yeah. Well, the river land is a friend's, and then the one up higher up on the mesas, I bought it. It's not, honestly, land when it's that dry is pretty cheap, so it's easy to afford.
What about neighbors? Do you have people that are real close to you?
No, not currently. The land I bought is pretty out there, so there are people that own some land surrounding it, but it's so far out, nobody ever shows up.
Yeah.
So you can use that outdoor shower and just be butt ass naked.
Oh, I am. Oh yeah. Definitely.
That's have you ever taken an outdoor shower, Sarge?
Oh yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. Yeah, I've got it's kind of a windbreak. It's actually stacked logs kind of in a 4x4 pattern, and then a big stainless steel tank that I painted black so it heats up with the sun.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
That's cool. So what are I need to know your most scariest encounter with a creature was ever in your life. Doesn't matter if it was on a show or just personal or whatever.
Besides humans?
Yes. That's obviously number one.
Scariest of the...
Like the one where you were like, I almost have to go change my underwear because that scared me.
I've never had that, honestly, like with wild animals. I've been super close. Like, I remember one time I was sleeping in this canyon, and I had kind of had my head up canyon, and the wind was coming down on my head, and I was like in pretty deep sleep. It was a really interesting feeling where you're like tired and you feel like you're supposed to wake up, but you don't know why. Mm-hmm. And I remember just having that like deep sleep, but like I gotta wake up. Like, what's going on? And
you probably were in like some crazy dream, and your body's like, I need to wake up, but your brain's like, no, keep dreaming the dream.
Yeah, it was like that. And then all of a sudden, I have a really, like, I don't know, I'm very conscious even when I'm deeply asleep. And then all of a sudden I heard this, like, soft step, like, right next to my head. Mm-hmm. And I, like, spun around as I could, and my face was 2 feet from the head of a mountain lion.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was, like, from spinning around, and my shoulders were kind of tense, and I, like, we looked eye to eye for a few seconds, and then I'm like, wow, we're both tense. So I dropped my shoulders to relax my body, and then the lion did the same thing. It was the coolest thing. Like, it dropped his shoulders, and we both like went from very tense to very relaxed, but we still stood and just stared at each other for like another, like, felt like forever, like 20 seconds, and then he finally backed away and then trotted off.
I have goosebumps right now.
What?
That's crazy.
It was cool. And then the next morning I woke up and I checked the tracks, and because of the wind direction, everything, the step that I heard was actually him realizing I was there. So the moment I spun around was the moment he knew it. Like, he was just casually walking along. And
it was by accident. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy.
Mountain lions terrify me.
Yeah, I can't decide. I feel like if I were to encounter either a grizzly bear or a mountain lion, if I had the choice, I don't know which one I would pick.
Yeah.
I could totally take a grizzly bear. I would not want to
not me.
I would say mountain lion for me.
I would.
I trust lions. Yeah.
Bears are too.
They're unpredictable.
And there's a reason why there's cats. I mean, house cats.
I'd choke a grizzly bear out. I'd choke him to sleep.
No, I mean, house cats, like, it's
full Nelson, huh?
I almost feel bad for house cats because I do honestly feel like they have come from tigers, lions, like all the big cats.
You know what?
And now they're pooping and peeing in a container with something weird they have to step on.
And you know what? I'll choke a house cat too. I'll put a house cat to sleep too.
I'd be the most worried about a house cat.
Tougher than I thought.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine if you had to battle a house cat? Like, if a house cat wanted to kill you, if it decided like, I'm going to try to take you out, like, it's not gonna win, but that'd be one hell of a fight.
They do. They
will hurt you. They will jack you up.
I've been jacked up by him. When I worked at the vet clinic, I had to, like, these are house cats that have some weird thing going on, like their owner didn't brush them properly, or mostly, and they bring them to the
properly.
And they have a bunch of if cats aren't brushed properly and they have super long hair, it gets matted like super bad, like tight to their skin where it hurts. Well, when I worked at the vet clinic, there was cats that had like 18 of those on their stomach.
Just
like,
biting everybody?
Well, it hurts, and so they're like not trusting. So they.
I'm thinking of like a feral cat or like a cat that was abused or something.
Yeah, those two, but they get scary.
They are. I agree. I would not want to fight a house cat.
I told you this story once where I worked at the vet clinic, and there was this crazy cat who was known to be totally crazy, like would claw your eyeballs out. And there was a sign on the kennel. I had a total record. He had a sign on his cage that said something like caution, which means like don't touch me. And the sign was tipped over, so I didn't see it. So I picked him up and was just walking around when I was working there, like, hey, because I'd take the animals out and like hang out with them, and everyone in the clinic was like, "What are you doing?
Run!
Why do you have that cat out? Like he's gonna eat your face off." And I was like, "Oh my god!" But he was totally fine. So I was like, "Okay, you have to go back."
You're the cat whisperer.
I guess. I don't know. It was weird.
You know what? And cats, house cats, they don't give a crap about us. They don't. As soon as you die and that cat goes a couple days without being fed, it's gonna start eating your face.
Dogs do that too. Matt, did you grow up with any pets?
I had when I was really young. I had a couple dogs.
And a squirrel.
Both of them were named Toby.
Toby, that's awesome.
Yeah, I have no idea why, but they both have the same name.
Like not Toby 1 and 2, just Toby and then Toby.
No, yeah,
at the same time.
Yeah. Toby, and then Toby passed away, and then Toby came back as another dog.
I was gonna say that'd be funny if you had them both at the same time. You're like, this is Toby.
Toby, I love it.
So I noticed that another thing that you are supposedly known for is your skills with an Atlatl. Atlatl.
Yeah.
Am I saying it right? Atlatl?
Yeah, Atlatl is the Aztec word for the tool, but it's one of those tools that really has been used on every continent throughout the world in our prehistory.
It's crazy.
It predates the bow and arrow, but it's also overlapped and used. I mean, it's still used currently by some cultures.
Yeah, I used one once in like Boy Scouts, I think, back in maybe like 6th grade or something.
Yeah.
But explain to our listeners what an Atlatl is for those who aren't familiar with it.
Yeah, I mean, in sort of layman terms, it's basically you're taking an arrow that's on steroids that's generally anywhere from 5 to 7 feet. It could be longer even.
That's like a spear.
It's sort of like a spear, but not really. I mean, if you visualize an arrow, it's just beefed up. Instead of a 1/4 inch, it becomes a 1/2 inch, and all of a sudden now it's 6-7 feet long. It's still got fletching. There's a cup on the end of the arrow instead of a notch. So instead of receiving a string, it receives the Atlatl, which is basically a 2-foot stick that you hold in various configurations, depending on your preference. And then on the end of that stick is a hook, and that hook hooks into the end of this long arrow, or dart is what they call it. And then basically it's giving you an extra joint on your arm. So instead of having these 2 main big joints, all of a sudden you're turning your wrist into a longer 3rd joint. And it allows you greater accuracy, much greater distance. Like a typical heavy dart can be thrown about 150 yards on average. And it has all this mass behind it. So back in the day, like when hunters were trying to figure out how to take down woolly mammoths and not, get trampled on by running up to them with a thrusting spear, they came up with this tool, and they were able to hunt with greater safety. But there's a misunderstanding about it being associated with just this big animal, because its accuracy is incredible. I mean, I use it for all kinds of game, like anything from very small to bigger game, like even chipmunk-sized animals. I'll use it on, and I use it for fishing and all kinds of things.
I was just gonna say, there's a video on your YouTube channel of you fishing with an Atlatl. That's crazy.
That's like spearfishing.
Because it would.
Yeah, but you're above the water. Yeah.
Right. Well, and isn't it too where it kind of it slows the acceleration, so the energy that it normally would have, if it's like super accelerating at a super fast speed, it causes it to fly like further or longer.
Yeah, much further and much, like if you're
more
fishing
accurate.
in deep water, it gives you much greater depth than if you were to throw it by hand. And the penetration is so good that when I'm hunting with solely primitive tipped spears, a lot of times I just use a blunt, and it literally I just aim for the head or the spine, and it literally blows the head off sometimes of the fish.
So the force
very
is
powerful
crazy.
tool.
The force is with you.
I can't believe it's still hard. It's hard to believe you could be that accurate with something like that. Compared to just like a bow and arrow, what do you think is better, Atlatl or a bow and arrow?
Well, so the thing is with So when you're talking about a primitive bow versus a primitive arrow, there is a greater chance actually for greater accuracy with the Atlatl, because with a primitive bow, generally you're trying to make your arrows match, and you're trying to do it the best you can, but they never do perfectly. So what happens is you start shooting a few arrows, and maybe out of those 3 arrows, one of them is flying exactly where you want it. And then you're shooting that arrow for a little while, and then you break it or lose it. But with an Atlatl, you might make a couple darts. One of those darts is flying pretty well, but one dart might last you 6 months because it's so hard to lose them and it's really hard to break them compared to arrows. So you have longer time spent with the tools that you make. And then that's really what increases accuracy. The more you spend throwing that particular dart, the more your accuracy increases and you start connecting with it more.
So what kind of distance do you get with that thing? Like, what's the farthest you've actually taken out some game with one of those?
I've taken game, down in the 45-yard range. You can make long shots, and then the more you're comfortable with a particular dart, you start stretching out the distance more and more. But the tool itself, like, I've thrown well over 150 yards. I was actually measured at 156 yards.
Wow.
On a full-size hunting dart. And then you can make distance darts that are like really skinny and trimmed down, and those can fly even much further.
Wow. I gotta pee.
So let me ask you this. I'm probably going to say it wrong because I'm horrible at pronouncing things, but bannerstone?
Yeah.
Bannerstones?
Yep, the weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because they say that it's a weight, but then they also talk about different stuff where they don't really know for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a debate over like the function of them.
Yeah, well, the weights do a lot of things. Debate in the archaeological community. The one thing that they definitely do that nobody can dispute is that they basically, when you make a flexible Atlatl, inherently that Atlatl becomes light because you're adding some flex to the arm. Mm-hmm. So you have to add some weight back to the arm in order to counterbalance the weight of the dart. Otherwise, you're flexing your hand, and you're going to lose some accuracy because you can't relax into the throw.
Yeah.
So what the weight is, its primary function, first and foremost, is to counterbalance the dart itself. Now, it also has some other functions. The dart is released when the arm is at 90 degrees, so everything else is like this whippy follow-through. And if there's weights on there, it actually quiet down that throw a little bit, because instead of whipping the super light object, it keeps it traveling at the same speed.
Okay.
The other thing it does, and it's really tricky, but sometimes when you have a flexible Atlatl, in certain positions of the weight, time the flex of the arm a little bit better, and you can actually produce a little bit more thrust into the throw. But that's a super fine tuning that very few people have the ability to understand.
So is the design of the weight, does that have something to do with it? I would think so. The shape of it and
the weight itself is gonna, how much that weight weighs and where it's placed is really going to determine that timing more than the shape. But there's different shapes for artistic reasons, and also it's speculated that different shapes help quiet the Atlatl down a little bit more.
So crazy.
Yeah,
it's funny. The simple tool, it's actually, in some ways, it can be more complicated than a bow.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you don't hear a lot of people becoming real proficient at, an Atlatl.
Yeah, it's what I've learned is I've actually lost game before with primitive arrows, and that rarely happens with the Atlatl because it's so big. Like, in some ways, I find it a more humane way to hunt than using archery equipment, and I think more states should approve it during archery season, because it really, once you learn the tool a little bit, even if you make a less than perfect shot, you can usually recover the animal.
Oh, yeah. You can't use one in Atlatl? It's illegal to use it during archery season?
Well, every state has some animals that you can hunt with an Atlatl, but most states don't allow big game hunting except for a few.
Why is that?
So yeah. It's just, a lot of a lot of Fish and Game and those regulations, a lot of them are part of them are familiarity, and they're somewhat funded by different trophy hunters and sport fishermen and stuff. So what we're typically familiar with is usually what those Fish and Game departments go with, rather than really looking at the full spectrum of what this tool actually does, or this particular method of fishing or whatever.
Well, I wonder what the argument is against the Atlatl.
There really isn't. I mean, if you get down to the nitty gritty of it, people make really bad shots with arrows all the time.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you make a bad shot with the Atlatl, because it is so big, your chances of recovery are much greater.
You can make a bad shot with a scoped rifle.
Absolutely. I've seen people shoot deer 4 times in the butt before they recovered it.
Yeah,
I used to go out and clean hides for hunters in exchange to keep the hide, and some of them are just not even usable because they just shot them up the rear end as the animal's running away.
So what about people who spear hunt? People go and like hunt boar and things like that with spears.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
boar generally has looser game laws in most states, but a lot of times people are hunting boars on private lands too. So yeah, I mean that is pretty popular now, just because they're an easier hunt, but it just depends on the state's regulations.
Well, it's probably part of it too is because there's so damn many boars, those wild pigs, that they just need to get
absolutely rid of them. And they terrorize gardens, and they do a lot of havoc, that people aren't so down on.
Oh yeah, they can just destroy entire areas, and it seems like they're just constantly reproducing, constantly just making babies.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of boars over your way?
No, not here. But you hear about it. Like I think isn't Texas just overrun with wild hogs? And people can just go out. Go ahead, kill as many as you want. We gotta trim these numbers down.
No, we just have creepy ducks that are
ducks.
The male ducks.
A lot of leggy ducks.
There's a couple albino squirrels in the neighborhood too, which is kind of weird. There's multiple ones. Yeah.
We live in the suburbs, Matt. We don't get a whole lot of wildlife. The craziest wildlife we get here is coyotes running around.
Yeah, but one bit some lady in the face.
Yeah, she was
jogging.
Say again.
This woman was running, like jogging in a park, and she came across a coyote that was crossing a little cute bridge, and she just was gonna run by it, like not look it in the eye or whatever, and it came up and jumped her up and bit her in the
face. Weird. Was she okay?
Yeah, she's good. But he wasn't rabid or anything. And then a couple weeks ago, someone saw a mountain lion too, down by the river. Yeah. So they're out there, but we're also overpopulating. We're taking away their habitat and building houses everywhere.
But I think a part of it too is that they know that nobody messes with them. They've gotten a little braver, and they know that food is easy. If they come into our area, and food is easy. They can just dig around in garbage cans. They can eat your house cat, eat your dog.
Well, yeah, but that's not.
Nobody messes with them. Nobody's trying to kill them.
But that's because we've taken over their area. They haven't taken over ours. They've been forced to move. They wouldn't have moved otherwise.
Yeah, I think you guys both have valid points, because I know like there's a lot of coyotes now in Southern California, and my mom, she walks in the morning, and when she sees one, she turns around and walks the other way. And a lot of people are doing that with the coyotes. So the coyotes are like, "Oh, people are afraid of me," and then they're getting more and more brave because people aren't using their body language to show that they're not afraid.
They have no predators when they're in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Nobody's messing with them. Nobody's pulling out a gun and shooting them in their backyard.
Yeah, but in the suburbs, there's a reason why they are around.
Free food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because before they didn't even know what free food was.
Well, this is like buffet for them.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Well, you just need to turn loose some of those wild ferocious cats you guys were talking about.
Oh yeah, the crazy cats.
We need those house cats that don't get brushed often enough to scare off the coyotes and the mountain lions.
Oh man, there's nothing. The worst thing about like summertime here is when birds fly into your windows. I've had it happen so many times.
Yeah.
Had a full-grown adult duck fly into my living room window, and it just like was like, whoopsies, and just got up and flew away.
Yeah. Wow. And your window was fine, and the duck
yeah,
was fine?
Window's fine, but
That's
it didn't sound like it was going to be fine when you heard it. But weird.
Yeah. Wow.
So, what? I know Frenzy was asking you kind of like what you were like as a kid. What got you into this affinity for nature and bushcraft and survival skills, all that stuff?
I mean, definitely I had the sparks growing up with, just the nature of where we lived and where we spent time. I moved to Yosemite Valley when I was 17, and at that time I was really getting into edible plants. I had an assortment of books, and I'd spend time over at the museum there and watch the Miwok Indians make cordage and baskets and work on stone tools. And there was a curator there too that was actually quite talented. He taught me about hand drill fires, sinew back bows, and he actually took, for primitive skills people, they know how much is involved, but he took dog bane, processed it down, made really fine cordage, and he would weave full-blown hammocks that were all out of dog bane cordage. They were hammocks that were designed for carrying big bundles, but they were literally 7 feet long. Just his tenacity and his skill was quite impressive. I'm sure, I doubt he's alive anymore. He was an older gentleman, but just out of the blue, this random talented guy just living there, and it was really cool to learn some stuff from him. And I was reading up on books, and first when I moved to the valley, I was obsessed with climbing too, so I was doing a lot of that, and that turned into doing mountaineering routes. So I started doing these running routes and connecting all these big peaks, and I started doing ultra distance running where I just, on my weekends, I'd go take off and I'd run like 50 miles into the backcountry with just a little waist pack, and then I would be out there and be like, all right, got to survive tonight, and I would figure out what to eat and build a shelter and then run back the next day and go back to work. And so I kind of somewhat got into the survival stuff, partly because I felt a connection to it through these people I was watching, but also really got into it through just that raw, just diving into it and seeing what happens kind of attitude.
That's crazy. Jeez. That's awesome, though.
So you would run 50 miles into the wilderness?
Yeah, sometimes I'd cover 100 miles in a
each
weekend.
way.
Jeez, just wearing basically a fanny pack?
Yeah, that was it. I just had a fanny pack and a light shirt in there, and sometimes I'd put a little bivy sack in case it was really bad weather, but generally I'd get there and figure out how to build a nest or a shelter or sleep by a fire, collect some food, and run back the next day.
You definitely need to get a fanny pack sponsorship. Be like, this dude runs 100 miles at a time with our fanny packs. You can go on a cruise with yours, and your stuff will be safe.
I think after the 80s, early 90s thing, the fanny pack kind of got not as cool anymore.
It was like Zubas.
So I'm I'm all about cool, so I don't wear them anymore. But
I don't know.
But actually, what's funny is that nowadays I've adopted the more traditional way of carrying things. So I take a 5 by 5 foot piece of cloth and I roll it up with corner to corner, and then I tie that around my waist. So essentially it's still a fanny pack. It just looks cooler, and it's more versatile.
And you can nap on it, lay it out and take a nap.
It is, yeah. No, it becomes my little baby blankie at night.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
It sucks though that fanny packs aren't cool, and they probably never will be. But they're they're so convenient.
They make sense.
You women get to carry around a purse. You get to carry around a purse and just fill it with crap you don't need.
You can have a Merce.
And we have to stuff everything into a wallet. I know, but it looks weird if a dude's carrying a satchel.
Yeah.
With all
I
stuff
think you're right. I think we should bring back the fanny pack.
Yeah. There's people that have just decided, like, no, this is what I do. Like Joe Rogan does it, Andrew Dice Clay, those dudes, notable people that they're like, I like a fanny pack. I got stuff that I want to carry around. I don't like having crap in my pockets because it does make sense. And I guess part of it is as you get older too, you're like, you start giving less you start caring less about things that make you look cool, and you're like, I just want to be comfortable.
Heck yeah.
I'm worn down. I just want to be comfortable. And so you stop caring about looking cool, and I want to get to that point. I'm getting there. It's coming fast, where I'm just going to not care anymore, and I'm going to rock a fanny pack because
hell yeah.
Keys in there. You can stick your
I tell you
what,
there. You're going to like it because purses can hold so many things. Like, I had someone the other day at the grocery store ask me if I had a Band-Aid, and I was like, let me check. Oh, yep, I do. Here you go. I'll even help you put it on.
But you, Matt, you've probably got like a survival Batman utility belt kind of thing you've concocted, I imagine.
No, not at all. Everyone asks me like my go bag and all this stuff. I'm pretty simplistic in my survival. I feel it's more, give or take certain environments, but knowledge is really, important to eliminate all those gadgets and tools. If you have knowledge, you can be a lot more comfortable than having all the gadgets in the world.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the knowledge part of things. Like, I think that one of the cool things about how popular these survival shows and whatnot have become is that it gives people a chance to learn some things and learn some, even if it's basic knowledge, being able to take care of yourself in case you either like going out in the woods and spending time with it, or if, say, something happens, some unforeseen event takes place and you find yourself stuck out in the wilderness and you have to be able to, get yourself out of that situation. Having that knowledge is helpful. And obviously the chances of, if you're not a wilderness person, the chances of some accident happening where you have to find a way to survive out in the wilderness is pretty slim. But even just having that knowledge, I think, is cool. And there's nothing wrong with having that knowledge, because we know some people who like survivalist type. He would hate to be called a survivalist. We have a friend who's he's more into a subsistence type living lifestyle. And I'm not going to name his name. I'm not going to call him out or anything. But he likes to stir up stuff on social media with some of these survivalist type guys. And I see both sides of it. Things like, there's no need for this type of knowing how to make start a fire with a hand drill. There's no reason to know how to do that. But you know what I mean?
It's about connection. It's what you enjoy. Sometimes I use a match, but I don't enjoy it as much as starting up a fire with a hand drill. Like, to me, it's all the skills are fun, and they're, it's not just a hobby. It becomes a connected way of living and life. And then all the skills they connect to each other as well. That's the part people don't understand. Like, if I say, I want to be, I want to be good at a good archer or good throwing spears, but I don't care about learning hand drill fire. Learning hand drill fire, actually you're learning to use your hands. You're learning control. You're learning techniques. And every skill has an overlap to each other. When you learn how to flint knap, you're learning control with your hands too and how to strike. So you become more accurate with your hunting tools. Yeah. And you also become more perceptive. And that's the thing. In society, everything's built very linear. It's straight up and down. It's straight. But in nature, nothing's straight. Everything's crooked. And it teaches you how to see. It teaches you how to... Perceptive skills are where survival's at. The more time you spend in nature, the greater perceptive you become. And then all of a sudden you start seeing things. And you start understanding things. You learn how to build tracks, see tracks. You learn how to hunt. You learn how to make something out of nothing, basically. And that's where the real art is. And when you forgo some of the skills because you say you don't want to do them, then you don't have a full, well-rounded background.
Yeah, well, I see both sides of things. Like it's a lot of the stuff that these real basic survival skills. The real down nitty-gritty type things like a hand drill. The basically having no supplies type survival. Like I see how like having that knowledge, especially if you're the average Joe and you're not spending a lot of time out in the wilderness, the chances of you ever needing to use that knowledge is pretty slim. You probably never have to use it. So one could say that it's unnecessary. But there's
absolutely. There's I mean, when you're talking survival, survival's not what I do. I do earth living skills, and it's a different beast. I don't do it because I want to survive. I do it because I want to connect, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. If it's something that you just enjoy doing, there's nothing wrong with that. Like me and Frenzy, we're probably never going to be in an actual legitimate survival situation. But we do like learning.
Now that you just said that, we're going to.
Yeah,
thanks.
I jinxed us. But it's cool learning some of this stuff. We enjoy learning it, even if we'll never use it. You know what I mean? It's fun. Like when we got to learn how to do the bow drill with Tracy Wilson.
Yeah.
It was just, we'll never use it. Like the chances of ever using it is probably pretty much zero.
But I'd rather try and do it myself and like actually accomplish it, and then instead of just reading about it and being like, I guess this is what I would do.
And now we know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, and it felt good, right? You enjoyed it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The one
I started an actual fire with mine. I got a good enough coal, and then we had what did we have?
Yeah.
Cotton. No, what are those little things called?
Fat wood.
No, that's what we used to.
The strikers were made of fat wood.
Yeah, but what was the they're cattails. Jeez, what an idiot. Cattails fuzz.
Inside your tinder nest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's just fun learning that stuff. Me and Frenzy were talking about this earlier too, but that the hand drill method is it's got to be the most difficult way to start a fire.
Yeah, it was super hard. Super hard.
It's funny because it's the easiest yet the hardest, and what I mean by that is if you're in a region and you learn what two combinations of wood or one combination of wood works, then you're always going to go to that because you can literally strike up a fire in 30 seconds. And it's very simple. There's very little to fail on it. But if you don't know the wood combinations or you don't have the strength and haven't had the practice with it, it can be a beast.
Or don't have enough spit in your mouth.
That too, yeah. No, you just go find a fleshy plant.
I'm just giving it crap.
Your hands.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing that I loved about it was getting that coal to produce that coal after I was like, I'm starting to sweat now. Like, this is ridiculous. And then getting the coal and then putting it in the nest and then babying that nest and like having my hands around it. And it got to be super hot. And I was like, I'm not letting go until there's fire.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about having that tinder nest where once you get that little ember glowing inside that nest and you're holding it in your hands, and for our listeners, you like imagine you have you're cupping your hands under some water to try to get a drink of water. You're holding this nest in your hands like that, like a little baby.
Baby, exactly.
And you're breathing, you're blowing into it and trying to breathe life into it and get this ember to burn hot and catch fire. And there's something, and it may sound totally lame than the way I talk about it, but there's something, I don't know, like really satisfying about once you get that thing to actually catch a flame and the actual act of blowing the life into it. It's just, I don't know, it's just something really, really cool about
That's why I said my hands were on fire and I didn't want to let go.
The feeling you get is just...
it's so cool. Like I can hear both of you, you're so lit up talking about it, and if you started a fire yesterday with a match, you wouldn't be as lit up telling me about it.
No, I wouldn't even talk about it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it's about. It's about being lit up because we're connecting with something beyond us and out there in nature.
Yeah, but also that you can become like proficient at, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little story because like when I first started, I mean, I've been doing survival or primitive skills for most of my life, really. But when I kind of in my late teens and early 20s, like I would go out like in very different forms. Like sometimes I would bring a backpack full of gadgets. Sometimes I would go out with nothing. Sometimes I'd go out only Stone Age. And one of the things I learned from doing that for extended durations is that, yeah, sometimes bringing a backpack full of gadgets made my initial stay easier. But after a week or two, I felt alienated from the experience. And because of that, I felt lonely and I felt disconnected and just left. But then there's other times where I walked out in a breechcloth and a stone knife, had very little resources, but felt so connected to the experience, I would stay out for 40 days or more. And that's what it's about. You know, as soon as we start connecting, then we feel like we belong there.
Right.
And that's why I teach the skills that I do, because it's not about a 72-hour survival situation. It's about creating a long-term living situation.
Okay, let me back up a second here. You would go out for 40 days, and is this in the desert? In the desert environment?
Well, like I said, mountains, canyons / desert.
With just a stone knife, right? And what was it, like a loincloth? Where
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly. Your junk is just swinging in the wind?
Pretty much. I'll tell you exactly what I would take. So I'd have my breechcloth, which I basically tanned from a deer that I hunted. So I'd carefully tan it as high up on the neck as possible. So it was about 5 feet long. So it was one continuous cloth that I would pull, and my junk would be in a pocket. And then
the junk pocket.
I'd have a stone knife, and then I made a little buckskin pouch, and sometimes I would grind like 1 pound of pinole, which is a toasted corn, and I would dry nettles, and I would add that to it. So I'd make this mix, and I would put that in. I would put that with me, and then I would have sometimes a fire kit. Sometimes I'd just make it out there, and then I would have a 5 by 5 foot piece of cloth, and I'd roll that up with just those few little things, tie that around my waist, and then I'd be good to go in this environment for quite a while when the season was appropriate.
So you don't have Netflix, I'm assuming.
No, we don't have Netflix.
That's crazy.
No, I didn't own a car for a long time in my life, so I pretty much just got around on my feet and did things that way. I mean, my life is much different now since I've been doing TV for the past 6 years. But despite that, I've still kept a lot of connectivity and doing this goal starting tomorrow of 3 months, no money, no vehicles. You know, I often set intentions like that for myself to keep that connection to the earth.
Well, it's cool. I mean, because you've been on a handful of different survival shows. But I imagine when you're on one of these shows, it's not like you're filming for like 9 months out of the year, right?
No, yeah, a typical series might take a few months to film. I mean, you are busy for time.
And then with your subsistence type style of living, the money you get for that show, I mean, you can pretty much live how you want and not have to worry about a thing, right? I mean, especially when you're living off the grid.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't make as much as people think I do with TV, but I worked hard and made enough money to buy my land and
right. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like you're getting rich off these shows or anything, and you're just living.
No. Well, it's funny. I've actually read my net worth on the income on these like fake social sites, and it's hilarious to me. Because I make a little bit less than most middle class.
Yeah. Does it say you're worth like $500 million or something?
Yeah, like 1.5 million or something.
Sweet.
It's just like I live in a private jet in the middle of the woods.
Exactly.
I live off grid, but it's in a private jet.
Yeah, and honestly, like people like me, there's opportunity to leverage your career, but I just haven't been I haven't been focused on money. That's my primary goal, is focused on earth connection, keeping my connection, and being able to share that authenticity with people.
Yeah. So why do you do the shows then? Do you do it because it's fun? Something to do? Is it a little bit of an adventure, or is it all about that paycheck, or is it all about?
Well, the first, I did a documentary with Nat Geo about six years ago or so, maybe 7 years ago, and I enjoyed that process. And before that, I did some consulting. I worked with Les Stroud, Survivor Man, and did a few things with the Survival School that through Nat Geo and the Amazing Race that came out, and I really like the consulting aspects. So I applied for a consulting gig for this one show that I wanted to work behind the scenes, and they were just like, no, we want you on camera. And it was a back and forth, and it was actually a tough decision, but I finally went ahead and signed the papers, and that was for Dude, You're Screwed.
that show had
regrettably, yes.
That show had to be fun, though. I mean, it looked fun.
I love the cast. We had definitely some fun moments.
Did you know those guys before doing the show?
No. I met most of those. I mean, I knew them before the show, but not a terribly long time. We kind of got to know each other through doing interviews and chemistry tests and meetings and all that to make sure that we were the bunch for the show, and make sure that we strike up a genuine friendship was important.
Yeah, well, because there's like the top peeps of, there's the Green Beret, there's the Army ex-Navy SEAL, there's the Royal British Army, and then you.
And then they got Matt, the wild.
And then they got Matt,
the wild card.
Who I have to say, I watched.
Don't know what he's gonna do.
I've watched a lot of episodes, and they definitely mess with you more than anybody, I feel like. But
well, thank you. I think.
Thanks. Give me some. So I need to ask you about the bovine blood. Like, does it go bad after a certain amount of time?
Because that taste.
I feel like it needs to be refrigerated.
You should probably tell
you definitely.
Talking about.
There's a reason that the Maasai eat it straight out of the cow. Yeah, you don't want to let it sit around for a long time. It coagulates too and gets a little funky, and it's in a hot plastic bag in the sun out there. Like in that particular episode when I was dropped off, I knew water was an issue out there, but I felt like having that nourishment and then dealing with the water sucking was good enough for me.
Yeah, me and Frenzy were watching that episode, and for our listeners who are wondering what we're talking about, it's from Dude, You're Screwed, that season 2 episode, and you're in Africa, and one of the things that the other dudes left for you to survive off of the area, they leave just random stuff, and one of the things was a bag of cow's blood, bovine blood, and you're in the middle of the African,
in
like
Tanzania,
Tanzania, and like the Sahara, and or not the Sahara, but the like Serengeti,
Serengeti,
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
close to Kilimanjaro.
But and we're watching this. And you're just down in this cow's blood, and you seem to be enjoying it. You seem to be enjoying it pretty much. And we're like, dude, we're like, Matt, find water. You're gonna get that blood is probably salty. It's probably dehydrated. And one of the other random things they left you was a bottle of A1 steak sauce. And you start drinking that with a big old smile on your face. Like, steak sauce and blood.
You gotta have a sense of humor out there, right?
No, it was funny.
But I'm
so thirsty.
I'm sure you're super pumped. You had the A1 sauce for the little birdie that you got.
Oh, that was so nice.
Like a little sauce for the poultry.
Yeah, I mean, I was like stoked. It was like the first time that like we actually got nourishment just handed to us. So it was pretty awesome.
That's funny.
And it really helped. Like when you don't eat for a few days, like it's hard to even jog, but just having nourishment throughout the 4 days I was out there gave me the strength that I could actually pick up my legs and start running across the desert on day 4.
Well, yeah, because Jake wanted to slow you down so you hunted so that you couldn't run, and then you got to eat, and then you're like, all right, I'm ready to run. And they're like, oh, man, like, see, this backfired.
That's one of the things I would have one of the biggest issues with in a survival situation is the hunger, I think.
It's tough. You know, when I did my 6-month solo, I lost a lot of weight. You know, I dropped down. I lost about 60 pounds lighter than I am now.
Oh, crap! So what was your weight? What was your weight at then?
Yeah, I came out basically at at one point I was probably 120, I'd guess.
Oh my
I made some big
gosh.
kills and put on some weight right before I came out, but I came out at 132.
Wow.
How tall are you?
5'10". Yeah, and I have a fairly muscular frame, so my waist was pretty damn tiny.
So your usual walking around weight is what, 175, 180, somewhere in there?
175.
Yeah. And wow, you got down to 120.
That's less than I weigh, and I'm 5'9". That's crazy.
Yeah.
I would look anorexic if I weighed 120.
So what's the what's the longest you've ever gone without any type of nourishment, any type of food?
I mean, the longest is just when I do a vision quest, when I intentionally sit down somewhere for 4 days and 4 nights. But there's always something to eat. Like if you're out on the land, like if you go a day without eating anything, it's usually by choice.
Yeah. So vision quest, tell us more.
Vision quest it's where you intentionally find a spot and you build a circle of stones, and then you stay in that circle of stones for traditionally it's 4 days and 4 nights, but sometimes I'll do ones that are just 2 nights, and you can gain benefit that way. And
wait, this is a very important question.
Yeah.
In this circle, what do you do when you gotta pee and poop? Do you pee and poop in the circle?
Yeah. Well, typically, because you stop eating. Generally, you don't poop because your body just takes that last meal and it's just making the most of it. But if you do, which has happened before, you just dig a hole in the circle and you bury it there.
Okay, so you can move. You're not like sitting still for 4 days.
The circle is generally 10 foot in diameter. So typically you're there, you're sitting, stretching. Sometimes you're laying down, but the intention is to stay present and awake as much as you can. Sometimes some native tribes say you shouldn't go to sleep, and others say it's okay to sleep sometimes. But you're trying to physically, basically deplete your body of all energy resources, and it's referred to by natives sometimes as the little death, because what you're doing is you're taking all the, that physical stimuli away from your body, and eventually your body gets to a very connected, relaxed state, and then that's when, ironically, you get clarity, and sometimes people have visions as well.
So it's kind of like there's some fasting involved in there. Obviously, it feels like almost like a different version in a way of like a float tank where people try to get like sensory deprivation in a way. Like you're not depriving yourself of all your senses, but you're depriving yourself of other things. Yeah,
I suppose you could say that. They're done, traditionally they were done without water, but nowadays people usually bring a gallon jug into the circle.
Wusses.
Yeah, and I've done them both ways. The ones without water I've only done for 3 days, 3 nights. But typically they traditionally were done for 4 days and 4 nights, and as much as 13 days by some cultures without water.
And kind of weren't they, I mean, that you would have to think that it'd be a personal thing, right? But then also for the good of the tribe, like spending time alone in nature and getting their vision and then bringing that back to share with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, nature has a way of softening people, Not only are you gaining clarity, but, it's hard to be a dick when you're put in situations like that, because nature just sort of takes the dick out of you.
Yeah, well, you're not dealing with the strain and the hustle of bustle of everyday life here in good old America.
Well, yeah, you're vulnerable to the elements. You're basically like alone, all by yourself.
In a way, that kind of is going out into nature. In a way, that is sensory deprivation. In a way, like, because in daily life, living in suburbia, your senses are just, there's an onslaught on your senses every single day. We're overstimulated with all the technology and all the people and the noise and the everything that's going on in the day-to-day, suburbia type life. It's an onslaught on your senses.
I would agree with you, but it's interesting because nature, I mean, and for me, there's actually more things to be tuned into, in terms of the senses, but the voice is a lot more subtle and it's quiet, so it's harder to hear sometimes. And when you do something like that, then you start to hear and you start to see more.
When you hear that, it's good to do that fasting, like people do like intermittent fasting, or even if you go 2-3 days without food, you're not going to die. You're gonna be fine.
Absolutely.
But it's like a break for your body. It's a break for like your digestive system, and on like a cellular level, your body can focus on other things besides trying to process this. Usually, for the average American, your body's trying to process this constant intake of just crap food.
Well, you're just retraining yourself. You're retraining your body and your appetite, and
the hardest part about a fast is the way you end it, because if you don't end it slowly, you might as well not have done the fast, and that's where the discipline comes in. Is slowly bringing food and healthy food back into your diet after a fast, instead of going and blowing it on a big cheeseburger or something, which is pretty common. So that's why fasting often gets a bad rap, is because people aren't ending it properly.
They're just
I agree. It's very healthy for your body.
They're not doing it long enough, though, either, maybe. Or maybe they're just eliminating certain foods.
But as soon as they're done with the fast, he's saying they're just like, all right, I'm done with the fast. Now let's go eat like 10 White Castle.
Well, no, I know. But I'm saying, like, fasting is harder because, like if you were to go no carb, just like keto diet, for example, you do that for 2 weeks. It's painful, and it's sad that it's painful, but it is. But then you eat like a chip or a cracker or something that's bread related, and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so gross, because your body's like not used to it. So I can imagine it's probably similar when fasting. Yeah,
your body's like, hey, I thought we were done with this crap.
Yeah, and then you're like, I'm going to go get a Juicy Lucy and crush it.
You've been stuffing Play-Doh down my gullet for the last 20-something years. And you finally give me a break and you just ate a chip?
Right.
I can't handle this.
Well, it's weird. Not just a chip, literally, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But so when you get done with one of these you get done with a fasting ritual on one of these vision quests, what do you implement when you do eat again, when you come out of the fast? What do you usually eat?
Like food wise?
Yeah, food wise.
A lot of times I try to just bring back food from the land, so it kind of just depends on the season. I might start out with some healthy teas. I've ended them on prickly pear fruits, and then I'm just pretty much just eating very simple and not very much of it vegetation for another week, and slowly bringing stuff back into my diet that way.
What are your poops like when you're done fasting and you start implementing food again and you actually start pooping again? Or are they are they?
They're usually pretty healthy. I mean, sometimes it even takes a couple of days before that cycle kicks back in, but
really?
Especially if you're eating something like some fruit or something, then you'll have a nice poop. It can be a little runny. It can be a little concentrated too. It just depends on the particular fruits, how much tannins they have, and so it really varies.
I'm curious, what is the natural poop for a human being? Like, if the way our bodies are designed, if we were to intake exactly what we're designed to intake, the most obvious,
green and not sticky. That's
it's just supposed to come out super easy, and when you wipe, there's like nothing there.
You don't have to wipe. Okay.
When I'm full hunter-gatherer diet, I usually have like really clean, non-sticky poops that are green because I'm eating so much green vegetation along with the meats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's a poop to strive for. That I think people should have as like a goal in life. Like, because who would not love to have poops like that?
Well, and you don't have to like strain yourself or like be like, oh my gosh, I have to like when you're like I have to poop and you have to run to the find the nearest bathroom.
When you gotta force
and it's like an issue.
When you're pooping out Play-Doh, that's because you're eating too much bread
or little rabbit turds.
You gotta push that out. Yeah, what causes rabbit turds?
I don't know.
Where you're just pushing out little little like marble-sized poops. You poop out like 20 of them. Like, what the heck causes that? What is that from?
It could be a lot of things. I mean, not having enough fiber in your diet, not chewing enough. It could also be having simply too many tannins in your diet. Sometimes bind you up too. Too much teas and coffees and things like that. And there's tannins in the wild too. And you have to moderate those.
But it's probably the tannins you get in the wild, I gotta imagine, are better than the tannins you get in like processed food.
They are, but if you're not careful and understand how to balance a wild diet, you can also bind yourself up as well.
Really? Have you ever had any issue with something you've eaten in the wild that, have you ever gotten sick in the wild due to something you ate, or maybe you drank some stinky water?
I haven't got sick from water too much, but sure, every once in a while you make a bad call. I went to the jungles in Hawaii and really didn't know much about that environment and was just testing out plants. And I ate something that made me sick, but it only lasted for about 5 hours and then it passed.
Oh, that's not bad. That's good.
That's something I've always wanted. I've been interested in getting to gain better knowledge on is the wild edibles, is being able to identify wild edibles and utilize them, even if I'm not going to use it. It's just something that I wish I had more knowledge of. So I suck at
absolutely.
Plants.
Edibles are amazing, and it's really cool because they have an overlap all over the world. I've traveled most of the globe now, and it's amazing. Like, no matter where I am, like I was in Mongolia a couple weeks ago, and just recognizing tons of plants that I was familiar with from here and other travels. And the key really is first identifying the ones that'll kill you. If you can eliminate those,
that's a good idea.
And just stay away from those. You can kind of like you get a feel for different families and different species, and then you start understanding, like, even if you don't know a plant, you start understanding different smells. It's like, okay, I've smelled this and it's medicinal or edible for this, and you start seeing the characteristics and how the leaves grow, and it's really cool. Like, plants, they, once you understand the big broad spectrum, they really have a lot of overlap in their smells and usage.
Yeah, they're cool. And plus also realizing like where they grow well or where they don't. Like this is probably not that because that doesn't grow in the sun, or figuring that stuff out.
By the water, dry soil, is a big one.
It sucks that there's even plants out there that can make you sick or can possibly kill you. Like, why can't we just eat all of it?
Or give you an itchy rash?
Yeah, like why can't the wilderness just be like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory where you can just eat everything?
That would be
then
cool.
we wouldn't have any humility. I mean,
that's true.
That's nature's way of teaching us how to pay attention,
keeping us in check.
You have to pay attention.
Well,
it's true, yeah.
And I'm sure there's like this bush that produces these berries that this one butterfly / bee loves, but if a bird eats it, it'll die. But that protects the berries to be pollinated by the bees and the butterflies to grow something else. Like there's a rhyme and reason for most of it.
Yeah, nature's complicated for sure. Even some of the most toxic plants in the world are also cures for cancer. There's always stuff we're uncovering and learning about.
There's plants that hunt bees and flies and animals for food. Like, they trap them, they make themselves look attractive, and then the insect flies in there and they're like, nope, and they eat them. Like, they're carnivorous plants.
Plants are aliens.
It's so cool, though.
Mushrooms are.
It's so crazy. All All right. Well, we don't want to keep you too late, my friend. But what do we have to look forward to? What do you got coming up that we can see you
riding a camel?
Yeah, I mean the show I just shot will be released later in the year, so you can check that out. It's called First Man Out. I will be, like I said, I'll be engaged with this 3-month goal that I'm doing. I am going to try to document it, so I'll keep, I'm going to bring in some friends. We'll probably do a little bit of shooting here and there, so I'll try to keep stuff going on. I have a YouTube channel. I'll boost that back up.
Oh, cool.
And then also I have an Instagram account. I'll kind of keep some stuff posted there. It's called Matt Graham Earth Skills. And, yeah.
Do it.
That's it for now.
It's exciting.
And then, the turn of the year, I'm doing a retreat in Hawaii, so if people want to come out and learn primitive skills on the island, along with hanging out with some really cool yoginis, you're doing yoga, healthy food, and primitive skills.
Nice. It would be cool to see you on alone one of these times.
I've considered it, actually. I was like, this would be kind of fun.
That would be awesome.
It'd probably be a walk in the park for you.
Well, I think when you're living off the land, like, really, it's where you put yourself is critical. So I think that, I think with that show, it's kind of luck of the draw. Some people get a sweet spot and some people don't, and that could happen to me. I could just be out there and be like, whoa, there's actually not that much in a square mile, but somebody else 3 miles away might have all the fish and great resources. So it's
super true.
I think the latest season that they just started airing was actually in Mongolia.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I had some friends out on that episode. So yeah. I'll have to see if I can catch a few of those.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. That's awesome.
Good luck on your next venture, and happy early birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, have fun out. Get out there on that canoe. I want to hear some stories.
Oh, we definitely will. Well, we're gonna follow and keep track of your 3-month challenge here, and we'll make sure we'll
document our canoe trip.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thank you again for sharing your time with us.
Yes,
tonight, man.
thank you.
This was a blast.
Yeah. Good talking to you guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good night.
All right. Good night.
Wrapping up the episode.
Wrapping it.
With some outro.
Yes.
That was Matt Graham.
Matt Graham, so fun. Was looking forward to that episode forever.
Yeah. Really cool guy. Lots of stuff that we got to talk about. He's an interesting dude. He's living in a very interesting life.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And it's cool because it's like exactly what he wants to do, and he's doing it.
I know. I'm kind of jealous.
Awesome.
Jealous,
right?
Like, we get the luxuries of living in a society with other people, but he's doing exactly what he wants to do. And a lot of people living in the suburbs, most of them can't say that.
Right.
So, yeah, hats off to that dude.
Yes.
Matt Graham. Love that dude. All right. If you want to hear more episodes, go and find all our episodes on iTunes and
Spreaker, Google Play Music,
iHeartRadio.
It's all Sarge approved. Same as our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah, check it out. Who we got coming up in the near future here on the show?
We've got some people.
Gino
Bisconti, New York City comedian.
He's been on Comics Watching Comics. He's coming on soon.
Yes.
And who else? Anybody else?
Well, there's more, but you're gonna stay tuned.
White. You like to be secretive.
I do. I kind of do.
All right. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I guess check out Matt Graham's stuff on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. He's got all the shows. There's Dual Survival. There's the latest one.
Is that
First Man Out?
Yeah, First Man Out.
Bushcraft Build Off.
Most of them are on Amazon Prime.
Dude, You're Screwed. Yeah.
if you have an Amazon Prime account, most of them are on there. I don't know how many of them are free included with Prime, but check it out. Good shows.
Do it.
All right, let's play out this episode with another Culla episode.
We love Culla.
This one is Who Am I? All right, we're done.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.
Later, fuckers.
Who am I? Who was I? Who can I be tomorrow? On the road of life, a light shines down, and paves the way for me. A ways to go, some ways to go. I can only be the man I'm supposed to be. But most of all, I'm the ghost of love. Ooh. I slowly fall right down to get back up again. Who am I? Who was I? Who can I be tomorrow? Oh, yeah. On the road of life, a light shines down and paves the way for me. A ways to go, some days to go. But I can only be the man I'm supposed to be. But most of all, I'm the ghost of love. I slowly fall down to get back up again. So say goodbye to aches and cries, and say hello to loving all your blues away. Yeah.